Welcome to the Mystical Musings with Friends podcast. Join us in these fun, consciousness-expanding episodes hosted by myself, Kimberley Late, where we discuss the world of the mystical and how this world can enhance your life experience, along with spiritual teachers and leaders from around the world. Join us as we explore subjects including the Ascension and Oneness teachings, Law of Attraction, channeling, spiritual healing, psychic explorations, and various other journeys within the mystical, esoteric, and metaphysical realms. It is a journey behind the veil of our reality, and it's a journey of awakening to the powerful being that you truly are.
Well, hello everybody, and welcome to the next episode of Mystical Musings with Friends. My name is Kimberley Late, and I channel the beings of the light and teach the Ascension teachings, which are based on oneness teaching and universal law, such as law of attraction. And today we'll be talking all about the Akashic Records. And we have a special guest with us today. We have Jennifer joining us today, who is a Soul Linguist, and she also reads the Akashic Records. So welcome, Jen.
Hi, Kimberly. Hi, everyone. Hi, friends. Thank you. I'm so happy to be here and to share what I know of my journey of the Akashic Records and all the other things that I do for radical self-expression.
Yeah, so Jennifer, it's an honor to have you today. So tell the audience a little bit about yourself and how you came to discover you are able to read the Akashic Records.
Mm-hmm. So I was born and raised in Southern California, and right now I'm in Irvine, California. And for those of you that aren't familiar with Irvine, California, it's about 20-minute car drive from Disneyland. And I have been on a radical self-expression journey for the past 2 years. And through that experience, I stumbled upon the Akashic Records at the end of 2019. So what prompted me to have a radical shift in how I take on how I live my days, it came from an end to a long-term relationship and an end to my job, and it all happened in the same week, and it came out of nowhere, it felt. And so there was something inside me that knew, okay, this time I'm really gonna listen to myself and be there for myself and express myself radically, however it comes up, because I've always been trying to accommodate everyone else. And so growing up as a Korean American too, there are these societal norms where you have to be of service to your family, and there's all these commitments. And so I realized in that moment when everything came to an end that I thought was supposed to be a forever, that I need to really feel into just myself and explore that fully. And so the Akashic Records, for those of you that aren't aware of it, it is a space in the ethereal space that anyone can tap into. It's basically the fifth element. So there's air, fire, water, and earth. And then there's the Akasha. And that's where all infinite timelines of all possible timelines exist. It's an infinite now. And so there's information that's in that because of energy, because everything has been recorded through energy. And so when I first heard about the Akashic Records, it was in a cacao tea ceremony meditation group. And there was someone at the end of that ceremony that wanted to offer a group Akashic Record reading. And I've never heard of Akashic Records before. And so I didn't know what to expect. And when Alyssa, when she started a 13 spheres of light meditation for us to be fully grounded in unconditional love and light. And also when she was prepping us to all be prepared for the Akashic record reading prayer of intention, there was something very powerful within me that there was something about that atmosphere that she created where I had to sing tunes, like tones. And that was and I'm usually very cautious about expressing myself, which is why this journey of self-expression is so important to me, and very powerful for me to be able to share. And so when I was just singing while she was doing the prayer, and I was like in tears almost, there was something that I knew I had to be a part of that. Like I also saw myself offering that somehow. And what it is she said a prayer of intention to open up the Akashic records so she can tap into it as a pure vessel, and then as a pure channel. And then she asked everyone to ask a question if anything comes up about anything. And then she would answer the questions very promptly with clarity. And it blew my mind what this was. And I grew up Christian, so a very traditional Catholic and then Christian background. And so for me to be even open to this space was very new to me, but I knew it was a part of my journey. And so that's when I first learned about the Akashic records. And then and then Alyssa's always traveling to offer these sessions. And so when, by the way, is this like too long? I'm feeling.
No, keep going. Keep going with the flow.
Okay, we're going with the flow. And then a couple months later, she came back to our city in California, and she was in the process of putting together an online training course for the Akashic record reading so people could offer it to others too. And since I also do videography, she needed my help. And at the time I was hermiting where I needed to be by myself. But there was a need for her to like work with me, and I felt I had to come out of that hermit mode. So one thing led to another, and we were working together, and she offered this training for me too. And I felt a natural flow towards receiving the training. And it was a 3-month training. We met twice a week on Zoom with, there was about 5 other individuals from around the world. And that's when I got to first tap into the Akashic records. And what it is I first received, when we say the prayer of intention, we set the intention to be a pure, concise vessel, and that we are protected by unconditional love and light. And after the prayer, when questions are asked, we all receive information differently. And for me, the way I received information first was visually. Like it's kind of like when you look at the sun and you close your eyes, you see a bright outline in that dark. But in that way, I would see images like very clearly. And it was surprising to me to have that container where I can fully use my imagination, and it's not imagination, it's like real. It felt real. And so about 2 months into opening up the Akashic records, I actually started to feel like I have to speak without knowing what I'm gonna say. And then after that, it evolved into me bursting into, there's like a presence here feeling. So my journey of opening up the Akashic records in that container, my channeling has evolved, but I continue to use the Akashic records as a container for me to do that. So,
wow, yeah. That sounds very exciting. And, you know, you can see how spirit guided you to where you needed to be, you know, because, you know, it does very much sound like you were supposed to do this. So you were being guided every step of the way.
Yeah.
And it's actually really cool that you can actually learn courses to do the Akashic records, but it's very true, isn't it, that everybody can tap into it. It is accessible to everybody. And from the learnings I've received through my channeling experience is that the Akashic Records, yes, it's a realm, a dimension where basically all the imprints of our, multidimensional lives, all the lives we have lived and are living are stored. And they have been kind of described to me as that they are basically an aspect of our divine blueprint. And our divine blueprint is kind of like, like a spiritual mainframe, and it's with us since the start of our journey from source projection into like different forms. And it's kind of like a software, and it gets changed with each life, but it carries with us basically all the imprints of all the lives we are living. And within there's like little programs. They kind of describe it to me like a computer software, So one of the programs is the Akashic Records, and it's kind of the divine blueprint itself is like interwoven, and it's kind of, you access it through your heart center. And this is why it's so important to do your inner work and consciously connect to your heart space. And, often a lot of times we may, see glimpses, or when we dream, we might see glimpses of, oh, that's interesting. It's like from the medieval ages, or it's, you wake up like, oh, wow, that seems very real. But that is actually, I don't know if that's something you learned like in your course and everything, your experience, but when we sleep, we actually visit our multidimensional lives. And usually with practice, with intentional practice, you can actually remember a lot of your lives. Sometimes they're very kind of fleeting when you wake up. So that's why it's really good to like keep, a notepad next to you, and you can write, and you can train the mind, and you can imprint even before you sleep to make the intention to remember your travels, because you travel the non-physical when you sleep. Like the ego mind kind of settles down. It gives time for you to explore the non-physical realms, and you can consciously remember that. And that's very exciting that everybody can tune into that. But like a divine blueprint, where the Akashic Records are, they say the language of the divine blueprint is frequency, right? And that's why everybody can access it. And that's why with everything else, that's why it's so vital to do the inward work, to do the shadow work, because it's in that raising your frequency, your vibration, which is a combination, our vibration is a combination of, thoughts, beliefs, perspectives, and how willing we are to let go of those old programs, to let go of the control, right? So as we do this inner work, this inner shadow work, so we transmute the shadow. So what we see as negative or feel as negative within us, judgments about us, once we transmute that into unconditional acceptance and love, we raise our frequency. And as we do that with us, we can do that for the world and for others outside of ourselves, because all others are us. So it's this kind of conscious practice that we do to raise our frequency, and then you're able to tap into your heart space and practice connecting to your heart center. So it's very interesting that and it's part of the Great Awakening. So I don't know, in your experience, how a lot of people are naturally starting to tap into that realm, as before it might have been a bit more challenging, but now because the energies are now available to us to more easily go and connect to our heart space, we can do that. And I know, like for me, personally, it was very, very interesting. Like I'll tell you a little story. This was years ago. Actually, this was 2008. So going back in 2008, this is when I was a spa therapist. And I actually, it was so fun. It was my first kind of experience as a trance channel. I was doing like connecting, doing a massage, and then all of a sudden I was an Egyptian, ancient Egyptian, and I could shake my head and I could feel the beads in my hair, and I was like, whoa. And I was looking down and I was wearing ancient Egyptian clothes. I'm like, whoa, it was very, very interesting. And then I saw all the walls of the room with like torches, like ancient Egypt, and that whole week, and this whole personality came over me. I knew I didn't know at the time that was my first experience of trance channeling, but during that week, I had very interesting experiences where I would just have this vision. I could be consciously aware, like sitting on the train or whatever, and I would just have these visions come to me of like ancient Egypt. There was times where, like, I remember it was like I was at the bottom of the tomb, and then like the top was open, and I saw these two guys with a torch, like in his old archaeology hats, like from the 1920s, looking down at me, and I was at the bottom, and all these crazy things. There was another time I was at the Sphinx working at this like very interesting things happen. So, but I know that also relates to my purpose here, and that's another thing. Is that, isn't it, Jennifer? That usually, if we're able to have this come into a conscious awareness of our multidimensional lives, that this relates to our purpose. And you know, over the years, like that was my first experience. But then, of course, in more recent years, I've had other experiences where I've been able to see other lives as well. And some of them were just like, for me, going to meditation. And sometimes I could be conscious, like, you know, washing the dishes or brushing my teeth, and I see like this vision of another life. I'm like, oh, that's interesting. And not just in another time period, but also like me as Kimberley. Well, not really Kimberley, but it's in the same kind of reality, but it's a different reality. You know that movie Sliding Doors? You know this movie? Like, it's a really like old, but it's a good culture. It's kind of like that. Like, I remember I was in the same suburb, but I had a different profession, and it was very interesting. Like, so it's kind of like a parallel reality. So parallel reality and like multidimensional life. So for me anyway, it's helped me to kind of just see how internal we are, that we are not just this life, you know. So it's very wonderful that you can do this, because you know, everyone can tap into this. And it's just it just helps you to see just how expansive we are, and that how all the lives are connected as well, which is very, very interesting. And yeah, but like with you, with your experience with Akashic Records, how like from my experience, when I see a glimpse of a multidimensional life or another life, I know it relates to something going on in the present, like my soul purpose, or it's a message. So what's your experience in that, with like if someone was, for instance, to wake up from a dream or be able to see another life, what does that mean for them, like in your experience?
Well, first of all, like the only reason why I like specifically talked about my experience with the Akashic Records, because that's the topic for today. But in terms of like receiving information and those signs where we do feel and like see that vision, or we feel that vision inside, it's really interesting that you said that there is much more internal reality, because that has been on this journey. Like, I felt, how do I say this? Like, there's so much more than the physical, and there's this understanding within me now where if I am getting like a dream, like 3 nights ago, I had a dream, and exactly how the dream showed me, I will share the dream. The next day, like the same thing happened. It was the same message, but in the physical reality way. So what happened was, in my dream, I dreamt of, I was in an auditorium, and it's a really big auditorium, and I was in the middle of the auditorium, and there was this knowing that all of my high school friends and everyone I went to high school with was there, and everyone who went to college with me and everyone in my college was there somehow in that building. And then another part of that dream was we were all standing in rows, and there was one person in the front of the auditorium singing a tone, like, oh, or something. It was a man. I just remember it was a man. I don't remember what he looked like, but it was a man, and he was just singing a tone. And there was a consensus in the room that we all had to raise our right hand with our palms open. And as we step forward, each time we try to tune into his tone with our voices, we somehow, the rows are merging into one.
Oh, wow.
And I didn't remember that dream until later that evening, I was invited to a group call on Clubhouse. I don't know if you've heard of Clubhouse. It's a new app where multiple people could be in the same room and it's just voice. And I was invited to one for acceptance is peace topic. And I didn't feel like speaking, but since I was invited, I felt like I had to be there, but I didn't feel like speaking. But during the whole time, I felt like I had to sing something. And every time someone shared something, it was exactly what was in my head, but they shared it. And so I had to, towards the end of the call, I shared my dream with everyone. And then there was someone by the name of Season that opened up and said, you know what's so strange? I have she said her name was supposed to be Jennifer, my name. But because of a song that came out on the day that she was born with Elvis Presley, her name became Season or something. And then because of that, I connected with her on Instagram, and her most recent post said, one voice, not an echo. And that's exactly my dream. So things, so through dreams, if people, like yourself, not in dreams, but when you're conscious and you see a vision, like actually here, I think that's a very special gift, and that's like so powerful that you can receive in that way. But I think everything that feels like it's like a anomaly, but it's meaningful, it is a sign, a breadcrumb for you to open up to a message. And even if we don't have the title as a spiritual, we have a spiritual label to be of service. Everyone has this. Even growing up, I would have like, I don't know what it is, but instead of riding my bike, one day I wanted to walk instead. So I would do that. So everything is a message. And I think that's so magical and fun. And your world just becomes even bigger and bigger when you recognize it's not just what you see and what our physical bodies feel. There's like so much more. Our inner reality is so vivid. So
it is. And like, I do know as well, like when we do sleep, we do process a lot of our conscious day as well. But it's very interesting that you can really program before you go to sleep and make the intentions, because when you make intentions, you imprint energy. You make the intentions to remember some of your multidimensional lives and make the intention to remember. And if you actually train like that and put a notebook on next to your bed, you'll find that it's like you're declaring to yourself, to the universe, that you are ready to remember. And then, I mean, it might not happen overnight, but you will start to access that and have glimpses of it. Usually what happens is that, isn't it right? We just like disregard it all. It's like a silly dream. And what happens is, or even outside of the dream state, we kind of conditioned that, oh, it's my imagination. Like you're daydreaming and I had this vision or daydream of that. And we always tend, like, it's true, isn't it? Like so much conditioning that, oh, stop daydreaming, that's a daydream. But basically our imagination is tapping into dimensions, So it's about really unlearning that conditioning, that when we see things or when we perceive to be imagining something, that we're actually tapping into a dimension. And actually interesting on dimensions, in messages, I've when was this? Maybe it was last year. It was before the COVID thing happened. I basically, what happened, I have a couple of good friends, and it was like I was having a conversation with them. And I've done this before, but I didn't know. I thought maybe it was my imagination. I didn't kind of put it as a significant thing. And I remember I was lying there and I was having this kind of future, it kind of felt like I was having a future conversation, and it was replaying word by word in my head. And I'm like, oh, that's cool. And then it came to me like because I have this, I'm able to tap into the inner knowing, you know. So how I receive a lot of messages for myself is not through like channeling messages for myself. It's through receiving the knowing. That's how I pull messages for myself. And then I receive the guidance that, that's time travel. And I was like, what? Oh, that's time travel. So it's basically with the multi-dimensional, because all our lives are happening simultaneously, but it's like our human mind can't comprehend it because we're so attached to linear time. So basically it was me tapping into dimension when I was actually talking to them, but I was perceiving it in the now. They live like in other countries, so it wasn't like in person. It was like I was talking to them, but I could see the conversation and I was working it out as if it was a real conversation, but it was in my kind of mind and I could see it. And then, but it was also a message. The fact I saw it was a message that I'm supposed to head in that direction, to start the conversation with them. So it is also me tapping that dimension and also a message for me. So it's kind of like, and it was another aspect of me, like me in another dimension. And our human minds are like, it can be hard to kind of understand, like, you know, it's very, because we're so attached to duality and linear time, right? But it was basically the knowing I received was that it was me from this dimension, putting this in front of me in the now, you know, to go, this is a message for you too. So it was like me showing me this other dimension. So it's kind of time travel. And we think like time travel is like, you know, sci-fi movies, you know what I mean? But it's very different, and we can time travel in an instant. But it's about being in the present moment. So with you in your work with Akashic Records, like I think with everything, isn't it? It's just being in the present moment. That's why it's so important, because if you're not in the present moment, you might not notice these communications. You might just think, it's my imagination, or you don't pick up on it. But if you're in the present moment, you are able to like fine tune to the sensitivities and be like, that's a message, you know. And then I think also as well, like with time, you get to really become more sensitive to it, you know. Like for me, I've become sensitive to a point where I know it's a message, you know. And often if we're distracted with a lot of things, we sometimes don't see it. So in your perspective, in the your experience with the Akashic Records and your teachings, how is the present moment related to the Akashic Records?
I think just the intention setting of saying I am a pure, concise channel of love, divine, and grace, of unconditional love, just setting that in, like that whole practice, and then that practice of intention setting, and then having a container to fully receive, and noticing like the subtle shifts in my body and in my frequency, and just being very sensitive to it and just expressing it however it comes up, and knowing that it is a sign, it's a message that is resonating with the energy of the question. That, and then ending that container, that has been a very big permission slip for me to understand, okay, anything that comes through to me, or whatever catches my attention, or what I'm gravitating towards is what I'm resonating with, and there is a message in it. And so that solidified my relationship with the sensitivities that I've had, and having more confidence in the sensitivities that I had, and not doubting myself. What I also want to share that I forgot to mention is your earrings. So before we even started the call, I wanted to mention it, but your earrings remind me of like Egyptian Horus, Isis, Temple of Isis. And what's really interesting is when you shared that oh my word, oh my gosh, Isis. You also mentioned that the one of the experiences you've had with having vision while you're consciously awake, of being in this Egyptian type place, Egypt. It's really interesting because last night before going to bed, I was thinking about our space sharing together today, and for some reason I was getting ready for a bath, and for some reason I felt like I needed to read this book. Do you know this book? And this is all about the eye of the heart, the secret of the eye of the heart. And so,
Oh.
and what's also interesting is yesterday I felt the need to listen to something Egyptian related. And I listened to a song called The Secret Chamber by Diane and David Arkinson. And
I've heard of that.
It's an immersive feeling of getting all of Egypt downloaded into you feeling. So it's really interesting that you mentioned you're very connected with Isis and of the Egypt.
Yeah. Well, actually, going into that, yes, I have since we're talking about the multidimensional lives and everything. Yeah. So basically, since I was young, I've always had this affiliation with Egypt, and I've never been there. I've always wanted to. When I was younger, not so much these days, but those of you who remember back in I think it was late 90s, 2000s, if those of you remember, I remember there was a time there used to be so much documentaries on ancient Egypt, you know, the face on Mars, was it the face on Moon or the face on Mars? Anyway, but it was all this kind of the mystery of the Sphinx. It was a very famous documentary and all this kind of stuff. And I was just so fascinated about it. And when I was younger, I don't know, for some reason, I bought this Isis statue. I don't even know at the time I knew it was Isis. I think it does it say somewhere? I don't know. Yeah, I don't think I even knew it was Isis. I just saw there was Egyptian, and it kind of reminded me of an angel because I've had this affiliation with I've been able to see angels since I was about 16 years old. So it kind of reminded me of Egypt and angels. And at the time I don't even remember if I knew it was Isis. But anyway, and I bought it, and I also had like these kind of Egyptian like pyramids and a Sphinx wine hole, like all this, memorabilia type thing. And it was interesting because there was no explanation like why I had such an affinity with it. And I remember like all the times I used to move house, you know, in my like late, like early adult years, because I moved out of home when I was around 18, so I moved around a lot. And I remember that it's so funny, like all the places I used to live, like I just could not get rid of this Isis statue. Like if something just was like, I can't get rid of it, even though it doesn't go with any of my decor or anything. I didn't know why at the time. I just felt I couldn't. And now I know why, because I have this strong connection. And actually it was interesting is that I was told that I've lived in the times of the Egyptian mystery school. So I had some information about it, like it just came to me. And then actually, so funny, I'm doing like a School of Light Institute, and I'm doing a course at the moment, a channel course by Isis. And she actually described how I'm bringing this new, like a era of mystery school, like in the School of Light Institute. So because I was there, and it's so interesting, like you know our friend Isabel Zimmerman, and she does like kind of past life regression, QHHT, and she went even deeper into that life for me. It was so cool, like, and it's so interesting because you channel as well, so it's very all the channelers out there. It was a very different experience to me channeling like an entity. It was like, because you channel your higher self, but it was so funny because usually I'm in a trance state when I channel. And this time I was like, it was weird. I was conscious, but just very relaxed, like hypnosis state. Yet I was talking. It was about my higher self. So it was for a channel, it's very unusual. Like it's distinctive. It's very different to when you normally channel. And I remember, because even your arms are very heavy, but I still was able to, I remember, like lift my hand, and I was in this initiation room. And who was there? I think Thothra was there, or Horus, someone was there. I don't remember now. I have to listen to it back. Anyway, there was a priest there, and he was anointing me. And I remember, and I actually physically put my arm up. It was very heavy, but I even I even remember doing like the cross here, because the priest came and did like this kind of cross on my forehead, my third eye. It was like an anointment. So I remember that, like she went into that life. And then I had some other Egyptian stuff going on there, but it was definitely linked to part of my purpose here. So it's very interesting, and it kind of made, obviously it made sense a lot why I have such a strong affiliation with Egypt. And for those of you, and I know you know, but some of you might not know fully that I'm also a light language alchemist. So you do similar light language, meditations and light language activations with sound. And it was funny, and not funny, but this was also linked to Egypt as well. So I do have an affiliation. And it was interesting, like when I was doing my meditation one day, and of course, this also relates to how we activate our, special gifts here, right? Because they say like it's all activated within our divine blueprint. And then they say that all our like psychic divine gifts that we have, it's actually from our multidimensional life experience, right? So it's already, and these imprints, if we are meant to explore that ability in this life, it'll be brought forth when we're vibrationally ready.
Yeah.
And it comes from your divine blueprint. And I was saying that vibration is the key, so that activates that to come through. So I was at a point in my vibration where I could activate that. So I didn't learn it. It just came online, so to speak. So I was doing my meditation, and then I was just sitting there, and I'm a Reiki therapist. I was doing like some Reiki on myself and sitting in meditation. And I, just like you with your singing, I just felt guided to start singing. I was like, okay, it's a bit strange, but all right. And I didn't know about I didn't really hear really about light language then. I was like, okay, I don't know. I didn't know. Yeah, it was very new for me. I'm sitting there, and then I started to use toning my voice, and I was like, okay, just go with the flow. And I was doing it. I could see all these, because I've always been able to see energy. So my eyes were closed, but I could see all these kind of lights and everything. And then I was like, whoa! I saw some more visions of things. I was like, whoa, what is going on? It was very intense. I'm like, wow, this is powerful, and it was actually more powerful feeling for me, like feeling high, than I did when I even did Reiki on myself. I'm like, whoa, what is this? And then, Isis was telling me basically what it is, like channeling healing and searching source codes. And she went into the kind of the origin of it. So basically she was my teacher in the Palladian system. And she showed me. So again, with the Akashic Records, I actually saw myself in this realm of somewhere in the Palladian system, and I could see it looked like all like pastel colors everywhere, and it was Isis, but not like as we know of her, like in a different form. And she was my teacher there, and then she was my teacher of this in ancient Egypt, and she was my teacher in this lifetime. So as I started to channel, I used to practice it, and then I used to channel her, and then she used to be like, okay, now visualize this golden flame within, now visualize this. So she actually taught me in this lifetime too. So she was my teacher of this here. And but now when I channel this now, like the light language, I channel the Elohim, which are angelic beings, and the sounds shifted as well. And it's very powerful. And it's just very interesting how, again, because with the Akashic Records, because I did in the Palladian system and I did in ancient Egypt. So it was already within me in my divine blueprint, in my the imprints in your Akashic Records, and because of my vibration and other programs like Divine Time, there's another thing as well, that everything has to kind of align, and then it kind of allowed that activation to come online, to have this gift now being brought forth in the now. And of course, with our gifts, our multidimensional lives, it'll always come through a little bit unique, because we are a unique frequency, even though the blueprints, the imprints carries through all our different lives. We're in like a physical form, right? So it's shaped through this frequency of a human presence. So it's always a little bit different. So that's another thing as well with the Akashic Records, how, when people are like, I need to learn kind of psychic abilities, or have to gain enlightenment and all this thing, understand that it's already within us. So it's real, and we have access to our Akashic Records, all our abilities is actually within us, and the portal, the entry point, is in the heart center, and the heart center is a dimension within itself. And basically, it just comes online when you're ready, but it's through frequency that activates. And that's why with like any kind of psychic development, spiritual development, this is why I teach that it's the soul work, the inner work, it activates it. Like you can learn all the kind of metaphysical exercises, you can, you know, do anything like that's outside of yourself, but if you don't do that soul work, you might start to explore a pathway that might reflect fear unless you have addressed those shadows within you. So everything is a dimensional experience of what's going on within you. That's why transmutation and working through the inner shadows is kind of the foundation of activating, you know, your access to the Akashic Records and all your abilities, your gifts. So it's very, very interesting that I just, you know, everyone can access it. So you know, all of you watching or listening to this today, it's, you know, you are able to do this, and just keep the awareness that you might see a glimpse in your everyday life. It's just that you might have attached that's just your imagination, you know? So just have that awareness that any kind of thought or vision that comes to you, that it's not your imagination, that it's a message from another dimension coming to you as a message there. And actually, I'll just share with you one other little story. I know I do talk a lot, but
I love it.
one little story, and in relation to the seeing the dimensions, like your Akashic. I was watching this show, and I've talked about this before, The Gift. It's on Netflix. Anyway, she does like light language there, like drawing codes, and it activated me this knowing that I had to do this too, like an art form of light language. So it's so funny. And then I searched for like art ritual places. And then as I did that, I then saw the vision of like a finished product. And that's also, you know, ties into, you know, like law of attraction and how it all works and how it's a message, but you only have to take that step that is shown to you. You don't have to go like 100 steps ahead. So basically that was my first step, to look at the art supplies. And then I just left it, and then I paused. And then I think it was a couple of days later, I just then received the vision of a completed project of what it would look like, you know, the colors to use, the kind of structure of how I would put together this artwork. But I knew that even though it might look like a future dimension, like another dimensional reality, it is, it's just a message. And that's with, you know, if you see any of the visions of your lives or feel, it could be just a feeling. It doesn't have to come like a vision. You might just have this knowing or feeling. It's a message, and a message it doesn't mean it's going to exactly turn out like that. It just means that to head in that direction. Right. So that's what you do. And then I did that, and then I chose the colors and I ordered it, and then it sat here for a couple of days, and I got guidance to how to set up my space. You know what I mean? So it's really a message. So it doesn't mean it has to be exactly like that, but that's like to do with your, you know, how future dimensions, as you call it, is a message, you know, and it's a form of time travel. But yeah, so and for you, Jennifer, what are some ways in your experience that people can really utilize the Akashic Records for themselves?
So I mentioned the prayer of intention multiple times, but instead of doing that, I also want to share like another way that I gave myself the permission to fully receive and to practice like exploring that. So before I even knew about the Akashic Records and before all the spirituality meditation groups that I started going to, when I felt, because for a period of time after everything happened with my breakup happening, I was with this partner for 5 years and it just abruptly ended, and everything happened in Northern California. And so I moved back down to the Southern California with my family. I kind of wanted to start like from a blank slate. And so when I had this inspiration in that summer of the following year in 2019, on my birthday, I wanted to do something new where I'm gauging where I'm at and fully being myself, but in the presence of other people. And so I want to share this experiment that I did. so people could also maybe use it. So what I did was create because I turned 28 in 2019, and it's funny because today is the 28th of January, but on my birthday at the end of July, I decided, okay, for this next year, for 28 days, I'm going to focus on a topic of the age collective topic for each day of the week or day of the challenge. So day 1 of the 28-day challenge would be related to age 1 collective theme. That will be the topic. And the topic would be inspired by me, like through me on that day. So like, and I wanted to do it online. So I wanted to go on live stream, having like an hour or two, just to have full allowance to allow anything that comes through to focus on that topic, but allowing my expression to just be shared. And so what happened was in the beginning, I started just talking about that topic. So on day 1, it was about initiation, because you are born into this world and there is this initiation of your first birthday. There's this like birthday celebration. And then towards like day 10, where I focused on age 10 theme topic, I noticed that I was more drawn to playing the piano, because I had the piano in there in that little room. It's like a closet. I had a room, I had my piano set up, I had guitar, I had flute, I had books, and I just wanted to allow myself to fully be myself and express myself however it came up in that topic. But people are watching, but I'm not focusing on people, but I know that people are watching me. So that was a big step for me. So by the end of the 28 days, I felt like I was aware of the filters that are coming up in my head when I'm speaking or when I'm expressing myself. And so this could be like a very fun way you can understand how where the conditioning is, like where you stop. Because for me, like even when I'm speaking, I shared like on the live stream, I would be like, oh, right now my heart's beating really fast and I'm really nervous. And this topic is important to me because something, something, something. So I have that up on my YouTube channel if people want to watch it.
Oh, that's cool.
It's called the 28-day live stream challenge, and I did it every day. And so the topics would be inspired on that day of. So I would be like, okay, age 3, what comes up for me for age 3? What is a collective consensus of what age 3 goes through? And then I would just share that. And then I would just talk about it or sing about it or anything that comes up. And by the end of the 28 days, I just felt so comfortable in just myself. And I was aware of what conditioning I was a part of and what stories come up for each age. And so that was a very powerful experiment and exploration. So that could be a way. So finding ways like that worked for me, and that's what came through for me. But going through the whole journey of setting the intention for the container of the Akashic Records and doing it also for others, for me, it worked that way, but you don't have to do it that way. So the way that you could tap into the Akashic Records is, first, I think it's really important to, like Kimberly has stated, it's all about frequency. So it's really important to practice meditation first and just feel relaxed in your body and ask yourself questions. And then, let's see, how can you tap into it? Just allowing yourself to set aside a time first to create that container for yourself to understand, okay, I am fully in receiving mode and I am going to do this meditation, breath work, and explore myself, and whatever comes through, I'm going to draw it out maybe, or I'm going to like write it out, whatever comes through. Like practice just allowing whatever comes through to be made into tangible form. And it could come through movements too. For me, on my journey, it was also movements. So I also do a lot of flow activation through my body. So just allowing, let's say, like, set aside like an hour of your day to fully just allow yourself to let go. And you don't have to think about what it's supposed to look like or how it's going to come through, but whatever comes through, like, let's say if you close your eyes, you don't know how to do breath work, but you want to like really feel grounded or something, then the next step would be to look for ways to do breath work or meditation or something. So each moment presents a breadcrumb for you, like it's an inspiration. So you don't have to think about, like Kimberly said, you don't have to like think about like what it's supposed to all look like and everything has to be perfect or it has to be a certain way. You just stay very present in the moment and allow whatever comes through thought or feeling in the knowing, anything to just allow you to unfold. And so it's different for each person, but what I would recommend is first creating a container then to first practice and feeling what it feels like to just allow the inspiration to take you on each moment, moment by moment.
Yeah, that's a really good, and setting the intentions with that, like you said, the container, that's, you know, for anything, whenever we do meditation, that's, you know, when you set your intentions, you imprint energy. So you can do this for everything. You can imprint like food, the water that you drink, because basically everything is energy, right? And all substances is at the fundamental energy. So you can imprint all, and because of that, you can imprint your meditations with your intentions. And again, it's about, you know, letting go of control of how it should look like, right? So it is a process of unlearning, but yeah, that's a really good exercise that you talked about with that challenge. And doing the container and just being still and making the intention to connect and for spirit, for your higher self, whatever label you like to put on it, you know, source, the angel, whatever, your spirit guides to show you maybe one of your lives that is needed for your highest good at this time. But be patient with it as well, because it is a frequency. So if you don't have these visions, or it may not even come as a vision, right? It might be you just have a feeling, you might just have a knowing. Like that's how I receive communication. I do receive for myself like visions, but also I receive the knowing, right? So it could come through in like your intuition, like you just have this. And for me, like how I describe like a knowing is it's like a very strong, solid form of intuition. It's like you can't, it's this knowing, it's like you can't second guess it. It's just like you just know. You don't know why you know, and it's just unshakable. You just know. You just like have no doubts. I don't know. It's just very, very solid. Like sometimes with your intuition, you kind of doubt, like, oh, I don't know, but with the knowing, it's just very solid, but you feel it. It's not something like intellectual. You have this knowing within your heart. So yeah, it could come to you in many different ways, but and like I remember you were talking before about the resonance, and that's also a message, because if something resonates with you, it's also a message. It's like your inner higher self is basically trying to communicate. It's like the communication is coming to the surface of your conscious awareness, and that's what resonance is. It's trying to like alert you to explore in this direction. So yeah, I mean, you know, life is supposed to be fun, it's supposed to be a game, and the fact that we can explore not just this life, but we can explore all our multidimensionality is fun, you know. But understand, like you know, I know like through the teachings, for me, they say like you don't have to necessarily go and explore like other dimensions outside of yourself, because what's most important is the life you're living now, because everything is in the present now. And understand that if you're meant to be shown another life, if you're meant to explore something, that it'll come through in your present reality, right? Or come through now, but you have to be in the present moment. So you don't have to always explore other lives and thinking, okay, you know, oh, I have more powers in this other life. Maybe when I lived on this planet, you know, I have these cool abilities, I levitate or do whatever, you know what I mean? And you might think, oh, I'm more like advanced in this life, so I want to more attune to this life, but understand that we are most advanced in this life, but those imprints, those abilities from those really cool advanced lives that we might call it, it's accessed within us in this life. And if we're meant to explore the certain abilities, because we are living so many lives, right? We've lived so many lives. So there's obviously in certain lives that you have lived and are living, there'll be aspects of those lives and abilities that you're meant to come through in this life, right? Mm-hmm. So if that is the case, if you're meant to explore certain abilities, wisdoms from these multidimensional lives, it will come through to you in the present now. And that's the only thing you need to focus on for this life, for this expansion, because you know, as we expand our consciousness in this dimension, in this life, we also expand all our other lives. Mm-hmm. And all our other lives are connected to us. So we expand the wholeness of who we are. It's oneness, right? So it's kind of as well, you know, changing our perspective to that, okay, this life is kind of outside of myself, it's separate, but we are connected, we are one, right? Mm-hmm. So there's a connection with all the lives we are living, all the connection of lives that you are living, and everyone's connected. We're all just projections of source of the oneness here. You know, living different soul contracts, mm-hmm. different experiences, and it's just very fun to explore it. But yeah, it's really just, isn't it, just being in the awareness, having fun with it. You're not supposed to be so serious as well, like, and we're meant to explore this physical reality, and then as we do so, we you know, we are never alone, right? Our spirit guides are always assisting us, but also we are assisting us from another, you know, future dimension, another life is helping us in the now, but it's about opening our minds to that information. Mm-hmm. And just also with the practice, I recommend that, you know, when you go to sleep, like in your meditation process during the day, and then maybe go to sleep and set the intention to remember. Mm-hmm. When you explore your multidimensional lives, and you make the intention to remember it, and just keep a notepad next to you and a pen, and just have patience with it, and you'll surprise yourself.
Yeah, universe, I set the intention to be surprised.
Yes.
Yeah, but yeah, just having fun with it. Like, if you know, like what you gotta do. Like, yeah.
So is there anything else you'd like the audience to know about the Akashic Records?
Let's see. It's also, like Kimberly has stated, those that claim that they are an Akashic Record practitioner, that they can open up the Akashic Records, everyone has, like, each individual has a very different vessel, right? So we have our own experiences, like own unique experiences. So if you resonate with my energy and my expression, then perhaps there's a message for you in the way that I like receive information, so you can connect with me. But there are so many Akashic Record practitioners who it is of service, but it's also it serves like the individual themselves, because it feels so good to be in that meditative trance, the channeling state. So if you feel very excited to learn more about the Akashic Records, or to connect with someone who taps into it on a regular basis in that container, like very potently with intention, then you can reach out to me, and I could connect you with other people that I know who channel the Akashic Records, or you can connect with me. And I have a website you guys can reach me at. You can reach me jennifer1.com, and I'm also very active on Instagram. I share whenever I'm inspired to share something, whether it's a photo, a video, whatever it is that I see in my inner reality that I know will also activate others. I share that. So you could check me out on Instagram. And yeah, so thank you so much for letting me share about my journey. Today's also the full moon in Leo. So we've been feeling very, a lot of dense energy. So, but thank you for letting me shine and roar in this way. Thank you.
Of course.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for joining
and
us today and sharing your insights and your knowledge with us all. So just I guess last words, just go out and play and just practice being in the present moment as much as you can. I know it's easy to be distracted with everyday life, but understand the soul lessons interwoven within what we see as the normal physical reality, our mundane lives. You know what I mean? Like there's lessons in everything. And if we are present enough, we can tap into our multidimensionality. Could be from a feeling, from a vision, or could be just a resonance. You might just have this resonance. You need to explore something, a resonance to, follow Jen, a resonance to read a certain article, a resonance to do something, some activity. So
read a book.
It's just you're always guided every step of the way, and understand that all of who you are, your multidimensionality, or the power of who you are in all your glorious forms and all the lives you are living, all those imprints are accessed from within you, from your divine blueprint within your heart center. So it's not something outside of yourself, right? Yes, because everything is a micro of the macro, right? So because of this, yes, you can perceive that there are portals in the physical environment and so forth. But understand that that's as a representation of duality. Understand that all portals, all dimensions, all realms of existence, all the universe is within us, right? So that's all you need to do is go within. And then, yes, if you're inspired to go further into Akashic Records, contact Jen, follow your inspiration there, and just go play, just go feel your way, and just keep that awareness that your imagination is not your imagination. It's not making tricks. If you see something, it's a message, right? So, I mean, I don't have kids. Do you have kids, Jen?
Oh, no, I wish. No, not yet.
So like those of you conscious parents out there, just keep that in the back of your mind as well when your kids starts having all these what you might call as just a wild imagination. They are really tapping into non-physical because they're, I guess, fresh to this side, so to speak, so they have less resistance to seeing all these realms of existence. So encourage them to explore their imagination. They're exploring realms of existence here. So and it's we're just so expansive, and just my hope is that all of you get to have a taste of at least of what me and Jen get to experience by knowing our aspects of our multidimensionality in our lives, because it really does kind of give you the evidential proof in a way. Like even though you might conceptually think, oh yeah, I'm a multidimensional being, and yes, I'm living many lives at once, but for you to actually have that experience, if someone validate that to you as well, or you just having that strong knowing, like when you receive it yourself, it just really helps to solidify that knowing, that awareness that you are so powerful, that we are also like eternal, that this life is just one of many, and that all our lives are assisting us here. Like we have, if you didn't explore something you wanted to in one life, then it might carry through in this life for you to explore. Like, it's like soul contracts, and that's another thing. Like, I mean, we are finishing now, but just I'll finish with a quick little story. Me and my stories.
Love it. I love it.
Basically, like this. I mean, that's a subject for another day. It's a big topic, like soul contracts. So it relates to the Akashic Records too, and the multidimensional lives. Like I've seen a life, and some detail there, and it was also what do you call it? It was elaborated on when I did a session with Isabel, and basically, and before I even had a session with her, or I knew that it related to my soul contract, and it related to like a fear I've had of public speaking, right? And look at me, I'm doing like podcasts and YouTube channels and everything else, but basically I was killed in that life. I was killed in that life. I won't go into the full details because I'll be here for another hour talking about it. For another day. But basically, I was killed for it, for being for who I was, and also for spreading the ascension teachings, for being a teacher. What I'm doing now, I was hunted and killed for it. And basically that kind of contract that created like I guess a fear of public speaking, right? Of presenting these teachings to the world, because I was physically killed for it. Okay, so there's a link here. So that's another example of how your lives, if you see a life or you feel a life, then it's a message that it links to your purpose here in your soul contracts. So that fear of public speaking, so to speak, even though I can't be physically killed for it in this life, I can be socially persecuted, right? So, and because I thought that, I linked it, and you can see how it made sense why I had this kind of irrational belief of public speaking, and sharing these teachings about having this fear about what people think of me, that I teach this, that I'm channeled, because I was killed for this. So, and a lot of people, a lot of light workers and way showers had similar experiences, especially those who were, witches in the, and burnt on the stake and persecuted. A lot of wise women were. So that's why a lot of people have these kind of deep fears, and yeah, so basically that was part of my soul conscious. I was shown that life to alert me, for me to conceptually make sense of why it is so important, part of my soul contract. And even though it might be challenging, by me overcoming and working through it, that's where you ignite, like you raise your frequency, right, in Divine Blueprint. That's when you activate more of your abilities, and you activate the awareness, your conscious awareness of your soul purpose here, why you are here, and all your abilities. So everything is just so interconnected here, right? So so if you're interested in exploring that, reach out to Jen or wherever your inspiration takes you. And just go play, have fun, and just remember that you are one, that you are eternal, that we're all connected with one another and with all the lives you are living. So thank you, Jennifer, for joining us today. And so Jennifer has told everyone like where people can find you. If people want to find me, just jump on my website, beingsofthelight.com. I invite you to join my public Facebook group, Beings of the Light with Kimberley Community. But also on the website, you'll find links to this website, Mystical Musings with Friends, my other podcast where I do the live channelings, YouTube channel where you see a lot of live channeling sessions and teachings there, and everything else, Instagram, and it's all there. So so until next time, everybody, love and light to you all. Farewell.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Mystical Musings with Friends. To find more info about myself and how to reach out to me about this podcast, please see the episode details. Remember, you are never alone on your journey, for you are one with all that is.